The next attribute that I want to add would be the width. In this case, you can use a photo editing software to figure out the width and height, or you could just right click on it and get info. And from there, I can see that the dimensions are 200 by 150. And these would be in pixels. It's understood to be in pixels, px. Width is 200. I don't need to put in a unit of measurement because it's understood to be pixels. The height is 150 pixels. I just need to type in 150. Finally, the fourth attribute that we will add to this IMG element is the alt tag. This alt attribute. This alt attribute is important because it allows you to describe that image. In this case, let's see, what is this? It looks like some kind of globe with a phone socket. Globe with phone socket. This alt attribute is what shows up in a browser if, for whatever reason, web.jpg does not load. It's important in that respect. But then there's also people who may not experience a website as a typical user. And these would be those that have visual impairments, for example. And for them, they would have to rely on a screen reader. And screen readers use this information to describe an IMG element to that person. And finally, it's important for search engines. This is how, for example, how Google knows that an image of something is what it is. So when you do an image for a globe with a phone socket, well, Google is going to be like, oh, here's one right here. So there are many different important reasons for including an alt attribute. All right, so we have the 4 different attributes. And as I mentioned in a previous video, this IMG element is an example of a self-closing element. So we don't have your traditional opening and closing tag. What we will use instead for consistency is a / and then a greater than sign. And that right there is how you code a self-closing element. You have your less than sign and then the name of that tag, and then to close it, you use a / and then a greater than sign. Now, if you do any kind of research or if you've taken a web class before, then maybe your teacher or what you found, the information that you found, it probably told you maybe that this is not necessary. And while that is debatable whether this is optional or not, I like to use it for consistency. If everything else that has an opening and closing tag uses a /, then it makes sense to go ahead and include a / with self-closing elements. And for this class, that is something that I would like for you to do also. Now, I realize looking at this that in this PDF I provided, I did not include a /. Sorry about that. So I will make sure I pay attention to that. But for this class, and just for future reference, just go ahead and do this right here. Put a /. Okay, so we got that done. Let's go ahead and save this. File, save, and let's take a look at our page. If you already closed out of the tab when we first previewed this page, go ahead and go back to your folder and right click and then open with Google Chrome. But if you still have it open, since we've made changes to this, you can go ahead and click on refresh. And if everything is working out correctly for you, if you coded this correctly, you should see that web.jpg display like that. And this is an example of a relative link. For the next image, looking at our finished example here, I want to include this mule head logo, but this time I want to use an absolute link. This means that the web browser will go directly to an external website to look for the linked file. In this case, this logo right here, we can find that in the UCM Athletics website. So that's ucmathletics.com, and it's this little guy right here. Now you can look at the source code and figure out what the link address to that is, or the image address is, or you could just right click and say copy image address. And just to double check that I have the correct one, I will put that in my web address bar. And there it is. There's my mule head that I want to use for this page. Just like before, to add an image, I will use the IMG element, but this time I will be using an absolute link. And that's that whole link right there for this image. And then for the width, let's see, we can inspect that. So right click, inspect, and then from there, it'll show you in a couple of places, like this portion here, or even over the image. If you hover over it, it says that it's 130 by 130. And just like before, without any unit of measurement, it is understood to be pixels. We will put 130 for the width, and then for the height, that's 130. The last attribute, alt, we'll just say mule head, and we'll close that. And we'll go ahead and add that paragraph. There's my opening and closing p tag, so I don't forget. And we will put in this information right here. The image below uses an absolute link. This means the web browser will go directly to an external website to look for the linked file. Let's save that and refresh our page preview. And if you did it correctly, this is what your page should look like now. It should have the heading, 2 paragraphs, this image that uses a relative link, and then this image that uses an absolute link. We'll finish off this section by adding this last paragraph. HTML is a simple language. Actually, let me copy and paste that. HTML is a simple language. It consists of ordinary text with commands enclosed by tags.